This is going to be the one just to kind of introduce everybody to a few new advanced features, but also showing you how to make the floor grate. So let's just see how this goes and see if you guys like this little software a little better. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start with a blank slate. Just load up this and delete everything off of it. We are going to create a cube. One neat thing you can do, I figured out now, since doing a little bit of this, is you can now set the origin, and in this case I'm going to set it to the 3D cursor, which I'm going to set to the point here. That's where I want it at. So that is 1 by -1, -1. So 1, -1, -1. So if I go out of edit mode, set origin, 3D cursor, now my origin is here. So now I can go and set it where I want it at. Alright, Unreal looks like it just finally loaded. So, alright, so I want a 2 by 2. When I multiply that by 5, that's going to make us at about 10 Unreal units, which is 1 square in Unreal, which is about the size that I want. And I just figured that out from time and time again of using this software quite a bit. We're going to extend that one out on the y-axis to 30. I believe this is going to give us the best size. So let's export this with FBX. If you've watched my other videos, you should know how to do this. If you haven't watched them yet, you may want to go ahead and do that. Doing a lot of little things here that you may not know. Set the scale to 5. That's what I'm using here. You can always make it a little bigger if you want it a little bigger for whatever project you're working on. And the default project here is just fine for what we're about to do. I've got my own floor here, or my own folder set up here for this. This way I can keep all my test meshes in one place. And I do this for a variety of reasons. Matter of fact, when I exported that, I forgot to give it a name. Now it's just called Untitled. And I'm calling this Floor Grate 2 because I ran through this once on my own just to kind of get the edges and corners rounded off. And we are under Documents. Let's make sure of where I had to export that at. It's under Documents. Okay, probably just got to refresh it. Oh, there it is. I just didn't see it. Oh, we're not worried about your computing normals. We're not worried about much of anything at the moment. We're just going to drop that in. And the size that I'm kind of going for here is about the size of one person, what they occupy roughly. That should give us, again, the rough size that I want. We're just waiting on this to load. And yeah, that was about right. So that gave us about what I want. It looks about like it's about one person's width. Maybe just a little bit more, but should be perfect. So we're going to go back on over here. Alright, so now I want to go ahead, and some of these bars are going to be a little wider than others. You could make this, again, I'm kind of going for an extruded aluminum floor grate. If you guys haven't seen this, I'm just going to go ahead and Google it real quick. I can kind of show you just a rough idea of what I was kind of looking for. Let's see if we can find something here. Yeah, it's kind of something along those lines. It's a little bit smaller in the holes than I'm kind of looking for. It was more like something along this lines. These you can see are joined by a rod. Not going to go that route. I wanted something that looked like it was just one piece extruded out. Anyway, you'll get the idea. You could make this one of two ways if you want. The way I chose, because I thought it was just a little bit easier to work with. There it is. No, not what I wanted. The option that I kind of chose was to make this box just a little bit smaller and go ahead and fit it around and into it. So what I did was go tab, select here, and I went just about on the z-axis down to 1.0. No, sorry, that ain't right. 1.5. And this is just cutting it down by 1 even. So we're going to go with 0.5. That makes it about a 1. And then we're going to make this one negative 1.5. 0.5. Oh, sorry. Negative 0.5. That's just taking a half off on each side. The origin at the moment is set over here. I want to kind of set it over here on the opposite side. So we're going to put that at 0, 0, 0. That'll bring us back where we want. I'm going to go on the y-axis to my left by 2. So negative 2. There we go. Space, tab, space, set origin, cursor. Okay. And the reason I just wanted to do that was just to make things a little easier to place them. So now it's on the positive side over here. I want to make this unit square. So what we're going to do here is we're going to make sure on the global button here, and it's negative 30, so we're at the right point there. There we go. And just to go ahead and make sure everything is lining up right, I usually find it a good idea before you go into a lot of editing is just to export everything a few times and then re-import. You can do this handy thing right here where you just click re-import. And voila, there it is. It comes right into the game. You can see the extra piece there. One thing I do want to show you, and we're going to fix that in a minute. Let's see if it does it or not. Oh, it's not going to do it. There's usually when these two are butted up to against one another, and you can see it here, it's usually going to do this weird flickering, odd looking thing that it'll do, but it doesn't seem like it's going to do it on this one. Anyway, and I'm sure if I play it, because it's the same length, I know it will be, and we'll just go ahead and play it so you can see that. It's going to be nice and square. Yeah, see? There we go. So then we're going to go over here, and we're going to do this the easy way. It's going to take just a little bit of trial and error on this part. We're going to duplicate that one. You can do that with Shift D. I'm going to come over by negative 5. I'm going to space them by 5. Let's just see if this works. And again, this is going to take just a little trial and error. Negative 15. Negative 20. And I did this just kind of haphazardly. Normally I wouldn't do this out on the negative axis like this. I usually try to do everything over in the positive coordinates, and that just makes everything come into the game just a little bit easier and a little bit more logically to work through it whenever you get there. You can correct it though if you do a lot of work into something, and you can fix that when you do your export. Negative 25, and then that's going to give us about a 5 space on this end, and I kind of want that because if I butt this whole thing up against one another, just to show you what that would look like in game roughly, I'd be able to butt it up, and you'll notice how it just kind of, the pattern just kind of keeps going through. There we go. So now we're going to do the same thing on the other axis. But first we're going to fix two little things on this that are wrong. First we're going to move this back. I'm going to go to a negative 1 here. Yeah. And the reason I'm going to negative 1, as you can see, that's halfway in between these 2 points. So again, it just kind of makes everything seamlessly look better. You could go ahead, and I may actually, you know what, I think I'm going to do that instead. I'm going to go negative 2. That's just going to butt that edge nice and neat. You could, if you wanted, split this up and make these boxes in between each one of these. It's a bit time consuming. It would save you a lot of render time in game. Probably not a bad idea to do that, especially if you want to make it a really well finished piece. I'm not going to do that here because we're kind of making this a bit of a quick piece just to teach you how to do a few things. But yeah, you could most definitely do that. Easiest way to do that if you decide to is just to sit here, this is just my view on what the easiest way is. You may have a better one you find. To go into here and then just go ahead and subdivide, and then you can set the sections. So we want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You could divide it into 6. And then from there you can just kind of, let's see here, go to each individual point, like say here, and hit split. Boom. And you'll notice now, oh, I did not do what I wanted to do, did it? Well, either way, you get the idea. You can split it, and I'm trying to remember. I'm racking my brain. I don't remember what it was I did. You can split these and actually pull it apart at that point. Now that I've subdivided it out by 6, and then you can set them over. But again, we're not going to go down that road. No reason to. And just because this is a tutorial, we're just kind of going through and learning something. I'm not going to delete those points. Normally you would want to, though. It's going to make things a little weird. You know what? Actually, I'm just going to go ahead and do that because this is not going to take that long to fix. Delete vertices. And then I hit the F key there just to go ahead and make those faces. And then if I select, that'll make that face. There we go. And I want to make sure this face right here is deleted, which I already did. And then I want to make sure that this face over here is deleted, which I don't think I did yet because I just realized I was in a different mode. And that wasn't what I wanted to do. There we go. Delete faces. Delete faces. Alright. So before I go too much further, I'm going to go back into edit mode and I'm going to edge select. And I want to go ahead and make all my cuts. This way, as I duplicate it, it just makes the workflow a little faster. It'll already have everything set in. So whenever I do my UV, again, I'm making a very uniform piece here. It's going to cut along these edges here and then lay everything out. So I'm just going to cut it here like this. Matter of fact, I don't have to mark these. And that's because there's no face here, so there's no need to cut there, just only on these edges. So yeah, we'll mark seam, and I probably could have saved a little time over here on these if I really wanted to. Probably should have. What I will do is go ahead and I'm going to join these, and that's going to make things a lot more simple when I do my UV mapping. That's the main reason for that. Alright. And join. Don't join as shapes, just join. Join. There we go. Boom, 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 boom. Yep. Doop, 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 doop. Careful not to select any weird edges if you don't do all of these, especially since we're making something so uniform. And the same point, you're going to end up with some weird looking stuff. And just to show you that, I'm going to select the edge of that. Actually, no, I'm not going to do that because I don't forget which one it was. We'll select that one. And then we're going to do, again, we're just going to do these all the same way, especially since this is again, a floor grate, something that's going to be seen multiple times over and over. It's just going to make it a little bit more easy to see. There you go. And feel free to pause the video if you need to, if you feel like I'm going too fast. It's just a force of habit there. Space. Shift D. And I'm going to do the same because I'm just kind of going for uniformity here. I'm going to go with a 5 space. I'm going to go with a 5 space. We're going to go with a 5 space. We're going to go with a 5 space. And 25. And this should make something fairly square. So go ahead and export FBX. And I shouldn't actually have joined those just yet. I got a little bit ahead of myself. because now if I need to move stuff around, I've got a couple extra steps. Yeah, there we go. See, I kind of like that. It's not got a thick look on all of them. It's just got it on some, and it kind of resembles those little thin rods. Play from here. Where'd that grate go? There it is. You can see through it, and if I do the collision, which I'll show you guys how to do that really well, you'll notice I can shoot through the holes. So that's going to make it really fun when you're playing the game and you see somebody above you and you want to hurt them. And you can also see through it so you can see who all is going above you. There you go. The other cool thing about this, you'll notice that there's no face here. We didn't want to waste any render time on something that's not going to necessarily be seen because it's going to be covered up. And I'll show you how to make those pieces next. Duplicate, and you'll notice that butts up really well against one another. It's sitting well on grid. And we can see that here. And you'll notice it's nice and square. If I measure that out, you're looking at 150, which makes sense. 5 times the other number, and then about 150 that way. So that's nice and square. I'm not sure if we did Pythagorean theorem, we'd find 212 was the unit measurement to go that way using a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Anyway, that looks pretty nice and pretty good. I really like the way that looks. So we're going to go ahead and go back in here, and we're going to do our UV mapping, and we're going to join everything up. So just select everything and hit Shift J. It's not wanting to work. Control J, I'm sorry. There we go. Now everything is one unit. And you'll notice I already have everything selected because I knew I was making something uniform. If for some reason, and again I'll address this in just a minute, I wanted to show you what's going to happen. If for some reason you join these up and one of these is just a little askew, you can do something real simple. You can come over here and hit Shift and select the faces of everything you want to move, all of the individual faces. Because the software doesn't really know the difference between a cube or this, that, or the other. It just kind of makes a generic space. If you hit the P key, that'll bring up the separate, and you can do by material, loose parts, or selection. In this case, we're just going to go selection. So now you'll notice I have this one. The origin's in a weird spot, and that's just because of where we joined everything up. You can always fix the origin just to make it easier to move like we showed you earlier. And now I can tweak it where I want it to. We don't really need to do that because it is all in the same correct spot. So no biggie there. Now we're going to go ahead and go into edit mode, select all, unwrap, and unwrap. You can do a smart UV project for some of the others. A little bit. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. I'll go with the smart UV. Not a bad idea to do it with a 0.1 that spaces everything out. If you compare that to some of the, yeah, see, this separated all the pieces. We didn't want that, so go back to 5. It should, though, not do that. It should just go ahead and do everything unwrap the way we wanted it to, which is this way. It'll space everything out, though, just a hair for you, so it's not all jumbled up like that. There you go, see? Now you'll notice we have something weird going on here, okay? We know these are the boxes that are the thin long ones, but what's that? Why is that over here? The reason that's over here is because I actually cut this one piece out here. You see how it's all selected? I've actually cut that off and it said here, separate this one, and we don't want that. So if you can mark the seam and hit clear, you mark it one more time, it'll bring this little menu over here up, and then you can clear the seam. That's how you clear those. Now it's gone. Now if I unwrap it again, just hitting the UU key, you'll notice it's gone. It's now back over here with one of these. Even though we did do them all the same way, because of the spacing and all that, and wants to make sure everything's fairly uniform and sized up right, it actually put two of them one of them faced the wrong, here we go, these two face the other way. There's a way, some way, to go in here and actually manually edit and move them all around. I haven't gotten to that point yet, so as soon as I figure that out, I'll tell you how to do it. For now, though, that'll actually work fine. It may work to your favor, may work against you. You may not like it for the UV mapping. But now we can hit File, Export, FBX. This is going to give us our final look over. So we'll see what we're actually looking like now. Re-import. Once I've re-imported that, I can right-click it and go to Edit. Now you'll notice the way the collision is currently, it's a whole box. It's not going to allow stuff to pass through. One thing you can do is to come down here to Static Mesh Settings, change the collision to use Complex Collision as Simple. And that's basically going to say that all of these surfaces are now collidable or collisions. So you don't have to actually draw a box around it. There's no reason to. You can do that for any mesh, even the Unreal or the Unreal, yeah, the UE4, the Unreal supplied ones. I usually like to either assign the asset that I've decided I'm going to work with, or I just go ahead and usually assign a world grid. I typically do that because now I can see the boxes. Remember I said 2 of them are flipped. I'm not sure which one of these is the other one, but for sure this one's flipped because this gray box is different, so that's going to make a slightly different look for the grate when I apply another material. But that's okay. And I'm going to recompute normals, so I hit apply. That'll fix your smoothing error by recomputing normals, and it'll make everything look nice and sharp and crisp. Save and close. And now we can see that. And now we have all the UVs. They're not overlapping. That's not something we wanted. It's all nice and square. I can duplicate these. And I can move them around, and now I'll have a nice square. So we've got all of this, but now we've got another issue. What do we do about this end over here that has nothing on it? Well, there's 2 basic things we can do. We can make 2 pieces. Well, we'll just say 1. We can make one of these, and then you'll have one just to put down there if you just want one of those. I wanted to have a finishing piece that made it look like the edge was just done. So what I like to do, and what I had done for the other set that I had made, the original set, again, we're just kind of remaking the ones I already did, is I actually did something really simple. I went in here and I hit File and Save As first before you do anything else. Save this one. Save this one so you have your file, and then go to Save As. And we're going to call this Floor Grate Finishing Piece. And this is just going to be the end piece that kind of finishes everything off. So we're going to go Tab, we're going to select all, and I just want to leave just this big fat one over here. And I'm going to make it slightly larger than the rest. So now that's gone. Delete faces. Now one thing I'm not going to do, I'm not going to recompute the UV map. The reason I'm going to do that, or not do that, is if you watch the UV, you'll know that it's going to make the UV map really big. I can go in and I can kind of eyeball it and scale it down, but the thing is if I leave it just like it is now, because I'm not making it much bigger, it's not going to make the scale go to a skew on it, so I'm just going to leave that as is. So I want the Z to go up. Make sure my Z is still my Z. We're going to go 2.2. Again, I don't want it to be too big, so we'll go with 2.5 and just see how that looks. And then on the X, we're going to go 2.5. And that's not what I wanted. 0.5 is still a little too much, so we're going to go with 0.5. Yeah, there we go. We just want to add a half to everything. And I'm going to go on this one past this x-axis, and there's a reason for that. Now it's a half all the way around. File, Export, FBX. Everything's still the same since we're using the other file, so we're going to export it. We'll go here, here. We're going to import Floor Grate. Where did I call that? Top floor grade 2. Oh, well, I exported it as tutorial floor grade 2, so it's actually under that. That was my bad. Alright, so I didn't want to overwrite the other one, but I did. So, which we saved the other file, so it's not hard for us to go back in there and re-export, import it. So anyway, there's the finishing piece. We're going to import all. And then whenever I move this over, my origin is still set where it was before. And you'll notice it's just slightly fatter than the other stuff. And it comes over and it actually slightly encases these pieces here, but it's equal all the way around. It drops down just a little bit. I think that gives it a nice finishing touch, the fact that it's a little bit larger. It's distinct, that it's different from everything else. If I go to Edit, I'm going to recompute normals. You'll see my UV, I have the 1. It's all sized out the way I want. We're going to set that, and we're going to use save. There we go. You'll notice it's just slightly bigger. Again, when you apply whatever material you do, you may decide to use a different one. Even though it's slightly bigger because the piece is bigger, it's going to be just that much more distinguished that it's a finishing or end piece. And I can do this and cover those pieces up. And you can actually use this, which is another reason why I made it so much larger, all the way around if you want. And that's typically what I'll end up doing. And you'll notice there's just a little bit of overlap here. That's not hard to fix. You can just kind of scale it up and down, left or right, or whatever you need to do. Usually, though, this is butted up against something, or I have something to finish it off. In this case, we're going to make another. In this case, this piece is going to end up being a diagonal triangle. So, we're going to go ahead and we're going to open up that recent one, the floor grate that we made. And here's the one that we had made. This one's actually, I think, the other one that I had made for the other video, but it'll work. It's the exact same setup, exact same size. Everything's sized the same. So, what we want to do is we want to make a 45-degree cut with the large piece. So just go ahead and hit A. Let's see, I'm just deciding which direction to go. I think it's going to be best if I grab this one, and I'm just going to drag it all the way over, and I want it to be where this one is. So the Y on this one is 26. So we're going to set that one to 26. And so it's going to end there. Now we got to do another little thing because we want this all to flow together and look like these two are one, but we don't want any of that that weird overlap flippity-flop thing that it's going to want to do. So what I ended up doing here, and it may not necessarily be the best possible solution, was to go to point mode. What we're going to have to probably do is that X was at 30. We just need to remember this for later. And what I did was to go to point mode, and I dropped that Z down by 1.95. That's just short of it, so it doesn't do that weird flippity-flop thing. 1.95. And then that's not it. 1.95. And then I also went ahead and brought this face in by that 0.05. So 26.9, or 0.1, sorry, 26.9, and then the same thing here, 26.9, and then I brought that up by 0.1, and that just barely brings it up, and then 0.1. And what that's going to do is when it comes up and meets the surface, it's just barely under it, but it's such a minute thing, you're not going to see it because of how the size of the scale of the thing, unless you really scale it up real large. Probably not the best solution, I realize, but it's one that works really well. One other thing you can kind of do is if you do the math on it, you can come from here and do some geometry math, and you can actually kind of calculate where this is in relation to this one, and you can put the point in. So this is one of those times where paying attention to your free calculus and algebra and all that really is going to pay off to help you out. And you'll notice that this face now fits nice and snug in here. And if I go to point mode, I can actually select these points instead of the other ones. Sorry, I'm just kind of playing with this, trying to get the right look here for you guys. And I'm botching it up bad. Alright, again, like I said, that's going to make it, and it's going to be so small that you're like I said, unless you blow this thing up and make it absolutely massive, you're not going to see that lift. You could take some time with it again and do a little bit of not calculus, so algebra, and kind of graph this all out and do a little math and figure out exactly where that point is and have those intersect. It's probably about the best way to do it. Another option, there is a way to go in here and you can figure out where these 2 points are at and actually just kind of merge those lines together, and this piece will stop here and then the face will be there. But that's what I'm going to do for now, and this was that. And then I go to edge mode, and then all I did here was move this edge back, move this edge slightly back, and it's still inside of it. And then I go through and just do this on all of them. Move it back, move it back, move it back. And if you want them to be at a 45-degree angle, so the edges, which is what you kind of want at this point, so that the UV mapping and all that looks correct. I position this so it looks like it's nice and square in between the two of them. I'll move that back, back. So about 5 gives it, looks like it's a nice clean edge from here to here to here. And then 0.9, and we'll come to the bottom. 0.1, and it's now hidden away. And you can make that even smaller, so it's even harder to see, like 0.05, 0.005. It's not enough, so 0.005, 0.005, 0.05 is about as small as you can probably go right there. Back to face select. Again, I'm just going to kind of make that look like it's about even on both sides. Go here, cut that back. So about 10 is probably about right. Oop, that's not 10. That's 10. 11. Okay, sorry, 11's about right. I go to the face and select, and again, this is where that algebra's come in handy. I'm just kind of making a quick tutorial. If you want to spend the time to go ahead and do a little bit of that math and figure out where each one of these points is exactly, I'd advise doing it. It'll make it look a lot cleaner, and then you can have those surfaces just meet perfectly. Again, this is just kind of a tutorial showing you how to do some of the stuff in here, so didn't want to get too nitty-gritty on you. So about 17's about right there, and that, well, 16.5, 16.9, yeah, 16.9 looks about right. I'm going to do the same thing here, 1.9, 0.1, 0.1, and again, that just kind of tucks it in there nice and neat so you can see it. Or can't see it, rather. Oh. No, we're going to make that, that looks about even. Actually, I'm kind of thinking that that might be the even point. Well, no, halfway between these two is probably about even. Right about there. Okay, anyway. Drag that one back so it looks like it's about a 45 degree. So 22.5 is probably dead even. The Z coming down to 1.9. 0.1. And now you'll notice that we have everything so it looks nice and even. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do here is I want these two edges to match perfectly. So what I'm going to do is to actually select this point. And then I can't see the other one because of that circle, so I'm going to move that over a little bit. And Alt-M, and I'm going to merge at last. That was the last point I had selected. Now those 2 points are merged, and they're perfectly positioned where I want them. So now you'll notice this looks like one finished piece. The only stink is right now this edge is kind of showing through a little more than what I wanted. But again, if we go through and we figure out where these points are, we can kind of put a point right here on this, and then merge these out and go from there. Let's see here. There we go. And that's basically how to make it. At this point, you can do the same thing that I just did for all of those. For all of these pieces here, and just drag them back, and then go through and unwrap and do the UV like you normally would. I'm just going to run through it real quick for you, just so you can kind of see how everything matches up. Sorry, thought you guys might get bored. Not hear nothing but silence here. So I know this part's a little bit boring. And in this case, I can just kind of drag it in there. I'm not going to worry about cutting it. And I'm not going to worry about deleting these faces off. And that's mainly because I'm not as worried about the UV mapping. When you do the UV mapping, you're going to want to edit some of this a little bit further than what I'm doing. That totally did not work. Alright, So now you see we have this nice, really nice looking finishing piece. It's got a nice butted off end over here, and then one that ends over here. So we're gonna file, we're gonna save as. Probably should have went ahead and saved this as what it was supposed to be before we went this far. This is going to be floor grate corner. Save as Blender file. Alright. Go to Unreal. And we're going to import. Well, we're going to import once I export it. It's been a long day for me, guys. So sorry that I'm a little loopy here. Tangent spacious, mesh 5. Floor grate corner. Oh, that's why. I don't know why it did that. Alright, we're going to put that in here. Alright, and it looks like I rotated this. It's not rotated right, so we're going to rotate it this way. One time, and we can fix that again just by doing a quick rotate with the export FBX on one of the axes. And there's that. You'll notice that this end butts up nice against that one. And if I get this finishing piece and grab it off over here, I can butt it against, basically just butt it right here against this if I wanted to. And voila, there is a little bit of cleaning up to be done here to make this a little bit nicer and a little cleaner. Again, it has to do with, and you can see the skew on the UV mapping is not quite right where I didn't unwrap it and all that. But you can look at it and you can kind of get the idea. And if you're starting to get a little more talented with this, I want to challenge you guys to go ahead and just edit this yourself and figure it out. There's another step to make this a little more complete. And I'm going to show you how that's going to look once you get there, open level, and you may be able to find a little bit better way than I did to finish it off. But the way I marked mine out is I actually made the panels again. Mine weren't quite square like those are, so they were a little bit long. But I came up with a little corner piece along with a couple other pieces to finish it off. Here's the biggest part of the floor grate up top, and this is just a bunch of them all laid out together. This, on the other hand, you'll notice is everything finished. My finishing piece, my finishing piece. I really had to play with that a little bit to get it to fix right. And these are my edges here, and then here's another one, and here's another one. Now I'm going to go ahead and pull that out so you can kind of get a better